Saw X is directed by Kevin Grudert and stars Tobin Bell, Shawnee Smith, and Siv Makodi Lund. A desperate John Kramer travels to Mexico for an experimental procedure in hopes of a miracle cure for his cancer, only to discover the operation is a scam that preys on the hopeless. When it comes to the Saw movies, I have complicated feelings. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think there is a single one that I legitimately like. However, I always find it interesting with its talks of philosophy, the creative traps, and my god, Hello Zep, Saw's theme might be my favorite horror theme ever put to film. Though I've never liked the Saw movies, I always root for them because I can always see the creativity in them. And with this being Tobin Bell's supposed last Saw movie, I was rooting for this film more than any of the others. And my god, I didn't just have a fun time with this film, I get to say the one sentence that I never thought I would get to be able to say. This is a great Saw movie. Like, I went into this film expecting to have a passing fun time, but nothing really fantastic. Literally 10 minutes into the movie, I was hooked with this movie's narrative. Not just the blood and gore aspect, but the character work, the camera work, the editing, the acting. All of it comes together to create a legitimately great film. Alright, so let's go beat by beat with this one. First of all, the acting. Tobin Bell might be the best here as John Kramer than he has ever been in any of the Saw movies. In literally every single one of his expressions throughout this film, you can see so much history and pain and hopelessness in his face. You can tell just by looking at him, he has just given up on all hope of getting a cure. But with this new procedure, you can see that hope reinvigorate in his eyes only to be crushed. While to be fair, it is not one of the greatest performances, it is a far better performance than I'm sure anyone expected going into this movie. And if this truly is Tobin Bell's last run as the character, my god, I can't imagine a better high note to go out on. The character of Amanda returns in this movie, and honestly, this might be the best her character or Shawnee Smith have ever been in any of the Saw movies too. I mean, you can just feel the history between Amanda and John in this film, and their chemistry is fantastic. This isn't just a teacher and pupil relationship that they share, but it's almost a father and daughterly dynamic as she's trying to contemplate the fact that once John Kramer is dead, she'll have to do his work without him. Both the acting and the writing make all of these scenes extremely impactful to the point where you do sort of sympathize with John Kramer's plight. John Kramer has always had these sick ways of testing people, but as it's shown with Amanda, they have been proven effective in some twisted way. And in this film, you can really see the fact that John Kramer is not a murderer, he is not a monster. He shows compassion in this movie, even for the worst people who find themselves in his saw traps in this film. He always allows them the option to get out so long as they just play by the rules. And once they get out, the minute they do, he is more than willing to get them medical attention immediately. John Kramer is a very sick character, but especially in this film, you see that he is not just a monster, but a complex human being worn down by beat after beat after beat. I have always said I love the idea of Saw, but I hate the idea of Saw as a horror franchise. At its core, it is a drama about a sick human being who has found a twisted philosophy in these horrible acts of crime. And I love movies that do that and dive into both the philosophy and the humanity of how someone could come to those conclusions. And when talking about the supporting characters and the victims of the saw traps in this film, they are almost equally as great as John and Amanda. Sure, the people in these traps are written as horrible people that most would want to see in these situations getting their comeuppance in some way, shape, or form. But the actors themselves bring so much flawed humanity to their performances that whenever they scream in pain or anger or fear in this film, you truly do feel that fear and anguish because the actors play them so well and so authentically. Sure, they are horrible human beings, but the actors still play them as human beings who have lives. There is so much depth to almost every single main player in this film. And when talking about the saw traps themselves, of course, they're awesome. A lot of them are extremely creative. They all have their bloody, gory, ooh, just squirm in your seat moments. And I'm sure everyone's going to have their personal favorite saw trap from this film. I would honestly say that there isn't a single bad saw trap in this film, which is a first for this franchise in a while. Every single one of them are extremely creative, and each of them follow Jigsaw's philosophy, and each of them have their own ways of getting out. And when it comes to the cinematography and the editing, I'm sure there are going to be a ton of people who hate on it and think that it's kind of messy and makes the movie look a bit more cheaper than it probably is. But when you really look at the Saw franchise itself, this kind of editing and cinematography has been throughout the franchise. And with this being Tobin Bell's supposed last Saw movie, it only makes sense for all of the cinematography and all of the editing tricks that made this franchise what it is now to be present in this latest film. Quite frankly, it wouldn't be a true-to-form Saw movie without the insane editing and oversaturated and undersaturated color palette. And the music. All I wanted from this movie going into it was it to end with the Hello Zepp theme. And not only does it end with that oh so awesome of theme songs, but the music and score throughout the entire film is also really well done. There is a great mixture of this melancholy atmosphere as you follow John Kramer mixed with this sinister tone as he becomes more and more Jigsaw-like towards the people who conned him. If I had one major flaw with the movie, it would be the last third. Around that point, there is a major shift in the protagonist and antagonist dynamic that, while on paper I can understand, when it's on film, it kind of just slows down the pacing to a halt. And I really didn't buy the threat of this shift. You don't really buy the shift because you know what's going to happen by the end of the film, so you're essentially just waiting for it to get to that point. But let me just say, when it gets to that point, oh, the music. As someone who has been rooting for this franchise since they knew it first existed and has been wanting to say this for the longest time, I can honestly say I loved this movie. The performances are all great, the story is very interesting, the traps and kills are creative, and the music is fantastic. I wasn't the biggest fan of the third act shift in this film, but I could see myself and others warming up to it with time. I dragged my friend who had never seen a single Saw film beforehand to this film, and by the end of the movie, he leaned over to me and whispered, "Are they all that good?" And I honestly leaned over and whispered back at him, "No." As insane as it sounds, I'm going to give Saw X an A. With Halloween literally just around the corner, I could not imagine a better movie to usher it in with this year. And speaking of which, make sure to stick around for the month of October as I have some big reviews planned for the spooky season. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are the best, and don't forget to click subscribe and click the bell icon down below to stay up to date on all things movie, all things TV, all things nerd.